I think my advice would be to say no more. Right. Like it is very easy. And I think this is kind of parallel to kind of what we were talking about before and taking a breath before you answer something. Same thing with you don't have to go chasing everything that's out there, right? As an 18-year-old that, it kind of seems like you were saying with your teenage daughters, right? That everything seems like it has to happen right now and you have to do everything. And, I don't think that hurt me in the long run, but I think that, my life would have been a little less chaotic.
Welcome to the Wisenetix Podcast. I'm Daryl, your hostess with the mostest. I don't know why I said that. I've been wanting to for like a few weeks. The head of sales here with Wisenetix. And today I've got Dr. Apryle Horbal here with me with Vet Now. And there's some really cool stuff that's going on with her company. Apryle, tell us a little bit about it.
Okay. All right. So I guess, we should start back at the beginning. So I'm actually an equine veterinary dental specialist by trade. So I still, practice part-time when I can, but a great majority of my focus is on Vet Now at this point. Vet Now started from my veterinary hospital in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I founded the hospital in 2016 to really be a companion animal and equine specialty hospital. And really our challenge in opening that facility wasn't getting customers through the door. It was actually staffing it with veterinarians and in particular veterinary specialists. And so Vet Now really started as a concept to connect the ER vets and general practitioners I had on my staff with specialists around the country to be able to, provide augmented advice, be able to provide options when they couldn't access specialty care in person. And so that's really where we started. But, the company's really changed a lot since then. We started in 2019. We separated from the hospital. So really Vet Now has been going for about 4 years. And we really worked at first in that specialty care realm, but really transformed first to providing access to higher level care for people in remote and rural areas. And that led us down the path to work much more with livestock and food producing veterinarians. In that case, of course, that the advent or the issue with food animal veterinarians has become much more acute than even companion animal vet shortages over the last few years, particularly when you're talking about providing access to rural care, getting the advice that's needed when it's needed, and also, the regulatory and other challenges that surround the food production industry are much more significant, of course. And so that's really kind of led us down that road. We also have really transformed too from being just a telemedicine company to being a company that works much more in connecting the objective data, so things that are stored in records and in dashboards and in systems on farms and regulatory paperwork that exists, and connecting that to the subjective overview of veterinarians and managers, and making sure that, everyone in a particular system is on the same page. So it's really been, quite a unique trajectory.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's a very different trend, like trajectory going from, an animal hospital to what you are now.
Yeah.
And what a cool 2023 sort of company to be.
I mean, it really is at the intersection of, with technology and data being, and taking on, what they are today and the importance in society, but also with the shortage of veterinarians and the issues with access to veterinary care. It's really allowed me to have a much bigger impact, right? And so that's something that, is really exciting to me and to my colleagues too.
Sure, absolutely. Impact is, I'm glad that you feel that it's big. It's big for us here too at Wisenetix. We want to do the same thing you're doing, impact as many people as possible. Everybody gets asked this question. In fact, the next two, everybody does. But what are your top 3 achievements and what did you learn from those experiences?
Okay, so I would, say probably, the first being becoming a veterinarian in the first place, right? And I think that, that's really been very fulfilling in terms of, the ability to help animals and to help people too, right? And I think that that sometimes is lost to the general public, that vets, by helping animals, often help quite a few people too, right? So that's been really fulfilling. And just being able to become a vet, because most kids at some point say they want to be a vet, right? But being able to actually follow through with that and become a veterinarian has been, incredibly rewarding and challenging at the same time. Um, I would say, kind of stacking on top of that, then maybe the second one would be becoming an equine veterinary dental specialist. So this is something that I also don't think a lot of people, and maybe even a lot of horse owners, don't know. That it's a very new specialty. It's only been around for about 10 years. And so really being part of that, formative group of people that were involved with the organization and going through the process of becoming a specialist, having the opportunity, I was able to do my training for that in Scotland, which was also amazing. And so it gave me the opportunity to live abroad for several years. And, really being able to have an impact on that organization and that specialty as a whole, and really, share my love of that clinical work with people has been incredibly rewarding. And then I'd say probably, the third is maybe a combined thing from, starting my vet hospital and starting the Vet Now business, being able to start businesses and really see them from ground zero, right? Being just an idea and being able to bring unique solutions to the floor, really help people, really help veterinarians, veterinary technicians, and other people develop their careers, having an impact on the community, and be solving problems on the fly and really facing new challenges that I never anticipated as a veterinarian. I would say that's also been something that's been, really challenging, but also rewarding so far in my career.
That's awesome. Not so super pioneer, one of the first in help forming your specialty there. And then it sounds like you're a little bit of, like me, challenges are rewarding to me.
Yes,
And so it's awesome to hear that you have that outlook. This is a funny question because I don't know if my parents would say anything near what I actually do, but how would your parents describe what you do?
Okay, so I mean, I think the clinical part of it, I think they have a pretty good beat on, right? Maybe that, I'm an ENT, or a maxillofacial surgeon for horses. That's how they describe it. I do think, in terms of software, that is a little more amorphous, right? And so they would say I'm developing software for vets, but that's about as far as they would go down that road, I think.
That's a lot closer than my parents would get. Way closer. But awesome. Kind of switching gears a little bit here, talking more about what happens in the business, specifically on the marketing side, which I always find fascinating. When you're thinking about marketing, do you think about positioning and sharing technical content and like the importance that is for your brand?
Yeah, I mean, I think to an extent, this is something that we discuss a lot. We just had we have a new product that we're building, and um, it's to help veterinarians, especially ambulatory vets, manage their vet client patient relationships, which have to be renewed in a lot of states by an in-person visit to a farm once a year. And so that's become a big administrative burden. And so we're kind of building this module, and we're having a lot of conversations about how much should we share about what we're doing, right? Because there is that, and it is a very delicate balance where you want people to understand what the benefits of it could be and how they, could use the tool and why they should pay us for the tool, right?
Right.
But on the other side, it's software. and it's not patent protected because it's software. And there's a lot of sharing of ideas, and I think this big picture impact of integrating multiple pieces of software from other companies, right? That potentially could be partners. And so I think that balancing the risk and the reward of sharing that technical information is something that really wasn't faced until more recently in the industry, right? And so I'm not saying that we've found a perfect balance by any means, but we try to focus more on sharing the benefits than sharing the features specifically, if that makes sense, to keep us, to keep us kind of balancing that as well as we can.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. I mean, and that balance probably changes week to week, month to month sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, with that, is that part of your challenges, like the technical thing, or are there bigger challenges that Vet Now is facing in terms of like marketing and communication?
Yeah. I mean, I think probably our biggest challenge actually is the fact that we have multiple audiences. So a lot of the time, and this kind of goes together, because a veterinarian may want to know a certain thing about the product, whereas a manager on the farm may want to know something else. And the person that cares for the animals on a daily basis wants to know something else. And if we're talking about a big production system, maybe that private equity guy at the top wants to know something else entirely, right? And so I would say like when we're talking about marketing and communications, that's probably our biggest challenge, because frankly, I'm not an expert in marketing, but the people in marketing that I work with regularly are asking always, who's your audience? Who's your audience? Who's your customer? Who's your customer? And there's not one, right? There's our customers are multiple, and they're complex too, right? Because they want different things. They want, vets may want to spend less time on the road, but they also, by the same token, say, well, we make our money by spending time on the road, right? By driving and charging mileage. And so trying to find that, that benefit or that win for them can be challenging. Same with managers, right? Trying to, sometimes trying to explain that, by saving them money, you're actually making them money is something that's a little challenging to understand for people too. So getting those like multiple complex messages across has been one of our biggest challenges. And we've really tried to, break those down and make them as simple as possible. But it's certainly still something that is probably our biggest challenge in marketing to date.
I totally hear that deeply in my soul, especially when, like you said, you're targeting multiple different personas that are very different. It's definitely hard to get that message out there.
Yeah.
And that's your biggest challenge right now in marketing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What's the biggest challenge for you in general right now?
Oh gosh, the biggest challenge for me in general is, I would have to say the environment that we are living in, right? The economy and the state of, let's say, we work a lot in the swine business. And so the state of the economy coupled with, the prices for pork and the cost of the inputs right now in terms of corn and fuel and things like that, the economic uncertainty that a lot of people are experiencing. And then there's still that undercurrent of African swine fever and disease outbreaks generally. All of that has created a lot of, there's just a lot of uncertainty. And so it's kind of created this paralysis almost. It's very odd. It would almost be better if the economy was just bad, I hate to say, in some ways, right? Like if everything was just recession, that would be a lot simpler than right now. People are kind of waiting a lot, right? There's a lot of waiting happening. And so I would say that actually, unfortunately, our biggest challenges in some ways are factors that are very much out of our control.
I don't think anybody could have said it better than you just did. And in fact, I really like that you said paralysis. I would say we here at Wisenetix are experiencing pretty much the same thing, especially in swine. And then I guess broadly speaking, the same thing everywhere as well.
Yep.
I mean, pancakes cost more than they did last year. That's for sure.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
Yeah, let's not get started on groceries. I always find this is a fun question because it's enlightening to me. What is one lesson in your job that your job really has taught you that you think everyone should learn?
Yeah, I think that, taking a breath before you say yes or no to something is really important. Taking a moment, I think we live in, this hyper engaged society where it's like, oh, I got that email 2 minutes ago, I have to answer it right away. And I think that, with the businesses I've run now over the last 7 years, right? That's a little unbelievable, actually, to think about. But it's really important to take a step back and look at the big picture, right? It's really important to think about the consequences down the road. So instead of making snap decisions, sometimes you have to. I'm not saying that, but if you can take a few minutes and just think about the consequences of your decisions, I think that that's something that I've really learned. And if I had known that 7 years ago, even 2 or 3 years ago, to just think about things, think them through a little further, and don't come to that rush decision. I think that that's something that I can't emphasize enough.
Awesome. If I'm going to have my stepdaughters actually listen to this because they could take a lot of that. Not saying they will, they're teenagers, but
Yeah.
sometimes taking that breath or that 3 count can make a difference.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
really cool that you said that. Kind of building on that just a little bit.
Uh-huh.
Are there any tools that you find indisposable to you? Like for me, my calendar is my life.
Yeah.
Like if I don't have that set up, my day's messed up. So I'm curious what you do.
No, absolutely. So my calendar is huge, right? If it's not on my calendar, I do not remember it, right? That my calendar saves me on many occasions. I also use a tool called Simple Minds, which helps you kind of make it's like a mind map, a workflow that you can build and kind of look at on your computer or your iPhone or whatever, and helps you kind of brainstorm and link items together, right? So it makes this big web, and you can really understand then how things are linked together and how your brain is really putting the pieces together and big ideas. So that tool's been really helpful. And I have to say, I guess I use a lot of pen and paper, right? I use a ton of pen and paper, and even when I'm making to-do
That's
lists,
me.
right? Yeah, I love crossing things off, but having them in front of me. And so, despite us being, a software company and a tech company, and lots of people that I work with, trying to transition me off the pen and paper. I think it's really helpful sometimes just to sit down and write things out as opposed to, trying to do it all online.
Yeah, no, I'm actually with you there. I actually tried to do it. I have an iPad. I've got the Apple Pen. I tried to do that. It just wasn't the same. For some reason, putting the pen on the paper and that kind of like physical connection really helps me organize my ideas way
Yeah.
better than otherwise. Awesome. Here's an interesting question. Before we kind of rope into kind of slowing down and closing out here, would you say like brand authority is really important for vet now?
Oh, that's a hard question, actually. I think that, yeah, I think us having, and we've been around for a few years now, and we work or have worked with a lot of industry leaders. And so I think building that kind of brand recognition has been important. But by the same token, in some ways, people still just see us as like a telemedicine app, right? And so I think that in some ways actually kind of rebranding, or not, maybe not even going that far, but expanding or minimizing even the brand, right, is maybe the way forward. So kind of a mixed question, mixed
That's
answer.
interesting. That's interesting. And then maybe it's part of like the transitions you've had. It makes sense that that idea may still be out there, that you're
Mhm.
just telemedicine.
Right.
But kind of moving into the softer questions here, more fun. What's an occupation other than what you do right now that you
Yeah.
would have liked to do?
So I know this is kind of a complete 180, but I actually really enjoy law and constitutional law, actually.
What?
So that was my that was in college for a split second. I actually was like, I'm going to go to law school and be a constitutional lawyer instead. So it's a complete divergence from anything else, right? But that's certainly something that I've considered. Honestly, I don't think I like being a vet now, and having, I think it's this combination of clinical work and, the more, I hate to say it more, it's different stimulation. It's not more stimulation, but these challenges that are more amorphous and, more, that require some more maybe strategic as opposed to linear thinking in some ways. I think that having that combination is really helpful. And I think that that's probably why something like that spoke to me in the first place.
Sure.
But I think I've ended up in a better spot because I couldn't see myself actually being anything other than a vet.
I'll be honest, I didn't see that coming, but but that's pretty funny. In another timeline, you're a
Yeah,
constitutional attorney.
exactly. No.
Um, Kind of building down off that a little bit. Did you always want to be a founder, CEO, in charge of your own,
Oh gosh.
destiny?
Yes and no, right? This was so my father's a serial entrepreneur, and so it is something that, I always knew I wanted to say have my own practice or, build a hospital or something like that. But this growth into kind of a parallel industry is not something that I anticipated, and it's not something I actually imagined doing. But I'm very glad that I did.
For sure. No, that's awesome. And then what advice would you give 18-year-old April?
Okay. I think my advice would be to say no more, right? Like it is very easy, and I think this is kind of parallel to kind of what we were talking about before in taking a breath before you answer something. Same thing with you don't have to go chasing everything that's out there, right? As an 18-year-old that, it kind of seems like you were saying with your teenage daughters, right? That everything seems like it has to happen right now and you have to do everything. And, I don't think that hurt me in the long run, but I think that, my life it would have been a little less chaotic had I said no to a little bit more stuff. Right. So,
No is a powerful word that for some reason a lot of people are very, maybe not scared, but have a hard time saying it.
yeah. Yeah.
So that makes sense. I mean, I think all of us at that, for not all of us, most of us probably at 18 want to go in 20 different directions all at the
Mhm.
same
Mhm.
time. So I get it. It makes a lot of sense. I don't know if I'd listen to myself, but
Exactly. Right. That's the point. Right. So, yes.
so okay, that's a great answer. And then I always think this is interesting too, because how we view ourselves versus other people is very different. But what is something that people misunderstand about you the most?
I think that, people do, and I hesitate to bring this up quite so much, but as a woman founder, frankly, and as a younger female founder, I think that there is often a lot of kind of discounting of, say, I actually have had quite a bit of experience running businesses, right? So, and I have had quite a bit of life experience now and, have had a lot of different industry experience and veterinary experience. And so I think kind of this discounting of, what I can bring to the table or what, my company can bring to the table is discounted sometimes, right? And so it's a misunderstanding, let's say. I think for me, and I think generally speaking for, I've had this conversation with a lot of other female founders and leaders in the veterinary industry. And even though the veterinary industry is, by the day, more and more women, right? The new grads it's 85 to 90% women actually graduating veterinary school now. The women still, struggle to kind of, own practices, or, that their impact is often discounted. And I think it's changing, but that's changing slowly. So that's not a misunderstanding for me specifically. I think it's kind of industry wide generally.
For sure. I love that answer. That's a strong answer.
All right.
There's nothing I could, one of my daughters would be like waving your flag right now.
Okay. I like it. I like it.
So I'm going to make her listen to this just for that. Kind of jumping kind of in the same waters of that one. If you could be remembered for one thing, what would it be?
This has come up a couple of times so far, but it's making an impact, right? Whether that's an impact on the veterinary industry, like I love my profession, but my profession is in trouble right now, with people leaving and mental health issues and shortages and angry customers and clients. And so I think that, being able to make an impact, a positive impact on that industry is important. And I think being able to make an impact on, animal care, and therefore people being able to access veterinary care, is very important too. And so, for people, whether it is a farmer that, their cows or their pigs or their livelihood, or if it's a pet owner that has, a dog that's like their child, being able to help animals and therefore, help people and really make that impact is really what I want to be known for.
That's awesome. I love that kind of what I feel the central theme through this entire conversation has been impact, whether how narrow or how broad that is. I love that that's a central theme to what you guys are doing over there. Last question. Okay. Well, second to last question. What is the favorite trip that you have ever been on?
Okay. So, whether you want to call it a trip or whether you want to call it, so I did something called semester at sea when I was in college. And so I spent it was a summer semester, on a boat, and then stopping in, I think it was 8 different ports in Europe the summer that I did it. They've done it, in multiple areas of the world. And if you do it like in the fall or spring, you actually circumnavigate the globe, which is pretty amazing. But that was what I was young then. I was 19 or 20 the summer that I did that. And it really stoked my fire for travel, and not just visiting places, but because it was tied with like college classes too, really understanding the cultures and global development and how, different cultures and different peoples interact. And so, that's a big part of the reason that then I did choose to, do my residency abroad, and still, travel quite a bit to this day. And so that was by far my favorite trip, because it was kind of the first one, right? So.
Yeah, no, what a cool trip to have too, kind of going everywhere. I'm with you. I feel travel is really important to kind of open your eyes, because we can get stuck looking here when there's everywhere else too. Yeah. All right. So April, we've got it to the end. You've done it. Where can our listeners find you online?
Absolutely. So they can check out our website at vetnow.com, or I'm on LinkedIn, and please, connect with me and send me a message there if you'd like to learn more.
Awesome. So cool. Well, thank you so much for listening to the Wisenetix podcast. This is Daryl. I was here with Dr. Apryle Horbal with Vet Now, and we'll see you guys next time.